following several warnings via loudspeaker and social media, because we all know everyone there is live tweeting just praying to see an officer cuss at them so they can be the next social media sensation. Brown laid it on police to de-escalate the riots, but apparently wants them to snuggle them to sleep while singing them lullabies to make that happen. Use of force, regardless of its legal justification, will do nothing to solve the underlying concerns of racial justice and police accountability raised by the protests. Perhaps not, but it sure does a hell of a lot to solve the underlying concerns of rioters completely destroying the city and making it unsafe for normal people to be out and about. Brown also said, a group has repeatedly taken to the streets with the intent to destroy property. This group has repeatedly lit fires, thrown rocks, bottles, fireworks and other objects and have put the safety of others at risk. Even so, she wants them coddled into complacency. We can do better, we must do better, to heal the divisions in our community. We have a duty to keep the peace, not escalate confrontation. Meanwhile, Mayor Ted Wheeler is continuing his regularly scheduled program of pandering and calling for a full and thorough review of all use of force tactics and meaningful public transparency. This was followed by, and I am asking for the public's support and calling for an end to the nightly violence. Join us in our call for peace. Lives are at stake. Mediavine. Yes. Police lives are at stake as you continue to allow attacks on police to go unchecked and without consequences. Following the use of tear gas against those who refused to disperse from an unlawful assembly, Oregon House Speaker Tina Kotek sent a letter to Wheeler. With all of her policing experience, she was able to determine that the police actions did not seem warranted. In fact, she said, the actions by police officers last night in North Portland were completely unacceptable. Instead of managing the situation, they created an unsafe situation and a public health hazard with their use of CS gas, in a residential area, and near several gas stations, I might add. It was an unnecessary escalation by the PPB against people exercising their freedom of assembly and freedom of speech. It showed an utter inability to exercise restraint. Smart policing is when an officer can differentiate a minor provocation from a serious threat. Nothing about this was smart. As the police commissioner, I implore you to take action to keep this from happening again. From the reports I've read and from what I've heard from neighbors, counter to what the PPB is officially saying, there was no risk to the public or to officers until the PPB decided to declare an unlawful assembly to permit the use of and deploy crowd control devices. What needed to be protected last night? An empty office building. Was this need more important than the health of neighbors, of children in a neighborhood, of people returning home from work? The declaration of an unlawful assembly did not seem warranted. The declaration of a riot was an abuse of the statute. Therefore, the ensuing actions by the PPB were unlawful. What is the plan to keep peaceful protests from escalating into these kinds of incidents going forward? Protests will continue. Lastly, what I've heard is that when police presence is minimal and does not provoke a response from protesters, things are calmer and people disperse on their own. De-escalation starts with not escalating in the first place. It remains to be seen whether Turner's words will resonate with anyone in the elected official realm, but based on their statements so far, we're guessing not. Want to make sure you never miss a story from law enforcement today. With so much stuff happening in the world on social media,